Hi there. So what we're doing today is I'm going to show a couple of things. One, I have some production jewelry castings, and some of them used to have a nice little round hollow tube in it. It looked very, very similar to this one, except it was round, and I've run out of them. So now I need to solder some of these new tubings in so I can put the color down in. I want to show you a little bit how I do that. I'm making some post earrings, so I'm going to actually take this. I have them cast with the two little jump rings on them. It's easier to cut the jump rings off than it is to solder one each individually when I need them. So in this case I've actually clipped them off, and they're now sitting like this, and we're going to take a little bit of the tubing and solder them up. So we'll show you how we do this. The first thing I want to do is to put a coat of solder down onto put a coating of solder down inside of it so the tubing will adhere very easily. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing I'm going to do is take some flux. I'm going to flux the front, I'm going to flux the back. So I have a little bit of flux down in there. And I'm going to use some medium solder to grab the tubing and use the easy solder when I put on the earring backing. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get my torch up and running. And now I'm starting to heat a little bit of that metal. You can see that flux starting to get a little bubbly, and then it's going to go nice and glassy for me. And as soon as it gets nice and glassy, it'll be hot enough. I'm going to just keep touching this solder until it actually flows. So there it goes, it flows right there. So now I have that little bit of solder which is sitting right at the bottom. And I don't even really need to pickle it. I can go directly for my tubing. So I'm going to go grab my tubing now, stick it straight down in there. So here's this little bit of tubing I've cut up, and I'm just going to grab a little piece of this tubing, and I'm going to stick this tubing, kind of throw it a little off center to make a little bit more interest on the final piece. So I'm going to heat up my torch again, and then I just have to flow that solder again so it grabs that little piece. It doesn't matter really what it looks like because it's all going to be hidden by the resin inlay anyway. So I just kind of go at that, and I haven't fluxed the little tubing. Not really necessary at this point. I'm just really trying to get the solder to grab onto it, which it has now, so I'm all set. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the earring backing on there, okay? And I actually have enough flux still on that back, so I'm just going to roll that back. I've made a little tiny hole right there, and that's really to accept the tubing, so it has a nice little place to come and sit down right down in there, and the whole earring back stays nice and flat. Here's my earring backing. I'm using a little tiny post right here, and I'm just going to use a little tiny bit of chip solder. We're going to go to easy now. I use one loop, so I know that that's my indicator, because it's really easy to turn one loop of solder, but it's hard to turn 3 loops, and so I'm using my easy solder. It's the way I mark it. So I'm going to take a little chip off of here, kind of drop it into my hand, and you notice I don't really have a lot of solder here. It doesn't really take quite that much. I'm just going to drop that little piece of solder right onto my charcoal and get it ready to go there. Alright, so I have my post, and I have my cross-lock tweezers. I use my cross-lock tweezers like that. It gives me a nice stable point in order to drop this, adhere the solder right onto that little post. What I'm doing is just dipping it into the flux. Not having to flux the solder. The fluxers, there's enough flux on the pick to be able to, or for the cross-lock tweezers to be able to take care of that. So here we go. So now I've got that little piece of solder that's sitting right there, which is going to ball. What I'm going to do is to use my earring back, and it becomes actually like a pick for pick soldering. So I'm going to heat that up, and I'm kind of coming down here until I get a little ball, And then that just pops right up onto that little tiny ball right there. And now I'm going to heat my little piece of my little casting here. Castings are quite durable. They can take a little bit more heat. And I'm just dropping this right onto my piece right there, and it solders down. I lift it away, give it a second to hold. Uh-oh, it didn't happen. Welcome to real life. Okay, that should do it now. Alright, so now, oh, dear. Okay, now that's definitely happened. I'm holding it. I'm not doing much of anything. And now you can see that that actually has taken. And there we go. And I'm just going to drop this off into the water. And then it'll go into the pickle and we're done.